I'm sure everybody is going to have extremely rational takes and will have very calm conversations about this one. Happy Monday and welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show. Of course, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions do apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Anthony Totri is, God knows, he's somewhere. He's running away, probably on a beach, toes in the sand, drink in hand, hanging out and relaxing, but it's okay. We're holding down the fort. And by we, I mean it's me, Erik Ruby, Captain Redbeard behind the Mac, making all the magic happen. And of course, the number one fill-in, Ralph Amsden, calling in from across the country, well, ready to talk a little Sun Devil hoops and football. Ralph, how you doing, my guy?
Good, number one fill-in.
That's my guy right there.
I like that, yeah.
There's nobody that makes me more calm when Anthony Totri is away than Ralph Amsden. And of course, if you're not following him on socials, you can follow him at Ralph Amsden. Ralph, Arizona State men's basketball is in an interesting place, and we already have people in the chat talking about it. Tournament berth is looking like a long shot, but not fully over. And of course, Saturday, their loss to the University of Arizona in itself was not great, but it was what happened at the end that really ignited not just ASU and U of A fans, but all of college basketball fans. What was your take on no handshakes and some spicy post-game comments from Bobby Hurley?
Well, I think you could probably, just as a fan, find a way to justify no handshakes. You know, I think ASU has to worry about ASU, and at the end of the day, with no other context at all, a conflict happens right at the end of the game. It's your rivalry. Stuff goes out the window. Honestly, who cares? Get them off the court. As long as you say the right thing afterward, then, you know, people on our side are going to understand. Now, it would be helpful if 3 weeks before that, the only coach that's paid more than that coach didn't go viral for saying that you shake people's hands, it's just what you do. So when you have one coach at your institution go viral for sportsmanship, and then 3 weeks later, the other coach go viral for doing the exact opposite, it puts you kind of in between a rock and a hard place if you're going to be out here trying to act like Baghdad Bob and defend everything that happens at this university. And then you have Bobby Hurley make the comments about not voting for Caleb Love for all Big 12 as a retaliatory measure. And it just wasn't a good, it was not a good Saturday.
No, and we said this on the post-game show, and it was tough. Like, emotions were flying really high. Totri said that he loved the move. I understood the no handshake move at the end, like you mentioned, especially something that's that heated. And I even said, man, like, as an Arizona State fan, right, and as somebody who talks about this school 5 to 7 times a week, right, I want my coaches to hate U of A. I want them to wake up the morning that they are playing the University of Arizona and be like, I couldn't even sleep more than an hour last night because I'm hate-fueled right now. But you have to find a way to channel that better. And as a coach, right, and as a college basketball legend in Bobby Hurley, even if you're not going to vote for any Arizona Wildcats at the end of the year, you should know better, because that's the end of your press conference. I get you're still heated, but the court stuff had happened a little bit of time ago. You should have separated that. You should have breathed. You could say, I don't like it. They were saying things I didn't like. It made me mad. But by the time that you get all of that off your chest, who in their right mind is going to sit down and go, oh, and by the way, I get a vote for all conference and I know who I'm not voting for? That's a terrible look for any coach at any school in any conference, period.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, okay, so I got to be honest. I live in North Carolina. Like, the three major schools out here, they all hate Caleb Love too for different reasons. And so, I'm sure that was red meat for somebody somewhere. I, I just, those are things that happen behind closed doors. I've just never heard anybody say it out loud before.
I was muted. Sorry about that. I just said sure because I very much agree with you. Those are things that I'm sure have happened before, but people have not said.
Yeah, like we're not supposed to talk about the way the world works. We're supposed to just let it happen. Here's the deal. I think it's important for Arizona State fans to be heard on this if they feel like they need to be heard. If it was just a bad game and you look at Bobby Hurley and you look at him being 4-16 against U of A and you figure he's sick of it, whatever, you're willing to let it go. Let's just get through the season. Fine. But I think ASU fans have every right to weigh in on this and how they want to be viewed. And there are a lot of people who support this program, who have supported this program for decades. Sportsmanship is incredible. If nothing else, if we're going to lose to U of A, at least we're not classless, right? Because the thing about Arizona fans is, they've never let anything go in their entire life. I got to apologize for something 12 people did to Steve Kerr 40 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
And so I don't have a ton of patience for what University of Arizona fans who got their feelings hurt by this have to say because Bobby Hurley's classless or whatever. They wanted to fire Brent Brennan because he's too nice. They're going to be upset regardless. They're just upset. They wake up upset. They go to bed upset. Nothing that Bobby Hurley says or does should ever be catered to how people in Tucson feel about Bobby Hurley. But Arizona State fans matter. Their opinions matter. And I think people, I think you saw kind of the tide turn a little bit with ASU fans, at least in the online presence, that, we've been losing to University of Arizona, so we know what that's like. What we haven't had to deal with is, hey, let's lead SportsCenter with Bobby Hurley dumping on somebody else's best player.
Yeah, it's a rivalry. Like, and I think U of A fans are massive babies most of the time, right? Like the freaking out over Kangaika planting the pitchfork when you planted your flag in our stadium last year. It's like, get over it. Like, and I'm by no means at all ever going to defend U of A fans. But I think when your coach, like from an unbiased perspective, if it's not ASU and U of A, it's school one and it's school two, right? And Bobby Hurley is the coach of school one, and he reacts the way that he did, right? It empowers the other school to say little brother syndrome. Like, to me, it gave off like, I don't want to play anymore energy. Like, I just lost to somebody who hit a shot against me on the court. I don't like them. So I can be mad. And I've been beat on the basketball court. I've been mad. I go up, I dap them up, and I'm obviously not in a good mood. But what you don't do is you take the ball and you go, I don't want to play anymore. And then you walk off. Because then you just look like a kid, right? Like, you look like you are not ready for high-level competition. And Bobby Hurley has not only coached high-level competition, he has played in the highest level of this specific sport, right? Not shaking hands. I can get over it, right? If you think it's classless, if you think it's disrespectful, I understand that. I don't truly believe that because U of A was talking, ASU was talking. There probably would have been a fight if those two teams went and shook hands classy and respectful at the end. But it's the adding on to it afterwards that just makes it a bad look. It makes it go beyond rivalry and start assessing like, are you too emotional to lead the program? Because I love passion, but sometimes passion can get in the way of the nuts and the bolts, right? Like the bread and the butter. And I do believe that Arizona State as a basketball team, especially offensively, plays very undisciplined, right? Plays very emotional. And That to me is a reflection of their head coach. And when that comes to light in the biggest moment and you're headlining SportsCenter and the entire college basketball world is talking about you, and not in a positive way, right? The vast majority of agreement on this is Bobby Hurley was not in the right to do what he did. Tommy Lloyd was trying to shake his hand. Tommy Lloyd didn't go into the postgame press conference and threaten to not vote somebody for an all-conference team, right? The very, very vast majority of people are anti-Bobby on this, besides some ASU fans. And while I'm not all the way down there, I just think you're not at a point as a program where you want to be viewed like this. Like, perception is not always reality, but it still matters, Ralph.
It does, and it's one of those line in the sand things. Because again, Kenny Dillingham made people shake hands after the loss to Texas, had plenty of reason to let people sit in their emotion and walk away. And then, people had to come out and say how they felt about Kenny Dillingham. And for the most part, it was just unanimous that, like, yeah, this is sportsmanship. This is what we want. And then, a couple weeks later, to have the same university in a similar situation making the opposite decision, you can't worm your way around trying to say, well, he was right in this circumstance and he was right in this other circumstance, because it's the exact same thing. Now, there are people for which there is no bottom to what you could get away with in a rivalry. And I appreciate those people because they are not sensitive. They're not going to get their feelings hurt by any of this. If Tommy Lloyd had sat up on the dais with a photo of every ASU basketball player's mom and did like smash or pass after the game was over, the most ludicrous thing you could do, the most disrespectful thing you could do, there would be people who support U of A very small fraction of them would be like, yeah, because we hate them, because this is real life. It's a rivalry and absolutely everything goes. And I think there's probably some people on the ASU side who say, like, just who cares if U of A in any way is satisfied by how we conducted ourselves. But the truth of the matter is we're losing. Bobby's on like a 1.5-year deal. Koa Pete is on the line. Bringing back Jaden Quaintance is on the line. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of on the line for this university. And I see in the chat, somebody pointed out the fact that it's been a decade. We've never seen the round of 32. You have to start then weighing the cost of what these tantrums are worth. And to exist in a world where the biggest star imaginable just got dumped by a franchise with like the most loyal fan base in the Dallas Mavericks because one of their players was too much of a hothead and wouldn't change his stripes, then we got to turn back and look at Bobby Hurley and be like, well, if Luka's touchable, then maybe Bobby is too.
You know what, Ralph? This is why I love you. Because I did not come in today thinking that we would get a Luka Doncic comparison to the Bobby Hurley situation, but you did it, man. You did it.
It's risk reward. It's risk reward. Otherwise, why dump a 25-year-old who has 5 all NBA first team selections? You're going to say, well, we're going to invest more in this person when they don't get along with the people in the building, when the way they conduct themselves on the court is a detriment to our franchise, at least internally. And people will think it's stupid, but we would rather move on than invest. And you look at ASU, you look at Bobby Hurley being, having a year and a half left. I don't think he was ever touchable by Ray because that was a really precarious situation that Ray himself really chipped in on. And so, but now Graham Rossini is in a position where he is in charge to the fullest extent that an ASU athletic director can be in charge. There are probably other voices in the room, other things to consider. But the fact of the matter is, it's been 10 years. And if you say to yourself, Koa Pete is the reason we can't move on from Bobby Hurley, you have to remember that ASU was in this situation with Herb Sendek and Marcus Howard. Marcus Howard was committed to Arizona State, and they decided to make that move anyway. They didn't retain Stan Johnson, and then Marcus Howard ended up COVID shortened season away from being Marquette's all-time leading scorer. Right. And so you look at it and say, like, all right, do we bring Bobby Hurley back next year just because he's our best shot at Koa Pete? They've been in these shoes before, and they made the decision to move on from the coach.
It's really tough, and we are going to keep talking about this. I think William makes a really good point in the chat. Says, as an ASU fan, Bobby was wrong. Love was saying some asinine things and got out of hand, but he backed it up. Focus the passion into out-coaching the other team instead of yelling at refs and players. If anything, his tantrums fire up the opponents more than his own team. So we are going to talk about if we believe it is time for Bobby Hurley to be done. Right, because I think a lot of fans are growing restless with the success of this program or lack thereof, the inconsistencies, and also, yes, the emotion that comes with it as well. Almost 100 of you in here right now. JJ, William, Nick, Rudy, Joey, Danny, Clint, everybody. We appreciate all of you who are in the chat here on a Monday afternoon. Big crowd. Make sure you hit that like button. So many of you in here have not hit that like. It's okay. I know you're going to do it eventually. Make sure you subscribe to PHNX Sports and stick around. More Bobby Talk. Plus, I buried the lead here as well. Keith Abney is joining the show. Totri and I pre-recorded an interview with Keith Abney that's going to be airing later in the show, so make sure you stick around for that and so much more right after our first break. Sometimes you get really angry at a basketball game and you think to yourself, why was I so angry? Oh, it's because I was so hungry. Bobby, eat some Spinatos, my guy, because Spinatos is not only the best pizza, but is the best place to watch Suns games with their Phoenix Suns watch parties. The pizza, delicious. The options, plentiful. And of course, they have a bunch of other things going on as well. Their official watch parties and official pizza of the Suns feature Phoenix Suns dancers and the Grilla. They're also doing a basketball/horse contest, but spelling out pizza instead of horse. It is the place to be for Suns fans. I remember we got Spinatos in here like 2 weeks ago, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since. I demolished basically an entire pie by myself. Don't tell everybody else, because I wasn't supposed to, but I just couldn't help myself. So mark your calendar, Suns fans. The excitement starts at Spinatos with all of their watch parties. Get all the info on the parties and the pizza basketball contest at SpinatosPizzeria.com. Spinatos, the official pizza of the Phoenix Suns. And if you're looking to sell your home right now, I want you to write this number down: 480-776-5231. That is, of course, the number to the Carol Royce Real Estate Team. And if you're selling your home, a lot of stuff is going to be thrown at you. Billboards, ads, whatever it is, of make this choice, make that choice. Well, we could just make it easy for you with Carol Royce. How about a guaranteed choice? Your home sold for 100% of the market value, or Carol's going to reach into her own pocket and pay you the difference. That's not just a, hey, this is what we do for most of our clients, or, oh, best case scenario. No, you sell your home with Carol Royce, you are getting 100% of what your home is worth. No questions asked every single time. If you're considering selling your home in 2025, the name to trust is Carol Royce, your home sold guaranteed realty. Have questions? Call today or visit Carol online at carolroyceteam.com. That, of course, is carolroyceteam.com. Thank you to everybody. Lots of Wildcats fans in the chat. Totally understand why they are here. A lot of them, Ralph, are saying keep Bobby Hurley, extend Bobby Hurley. We love Bobby Hurley. I want to unpack more than just this past game, because to me, the decision on whether or not to let Bobby go or to move on from, for all of his flaws, probably the most successful coach you've ever had as an organization, as a program, right? And it still hasn't reached the heights that you want. But over the last decade, we talk about getting 5 stars, hitting the tournament, right? Being a top 3 team in the country at a certain point. There have been lots of highs. The problem to me, and the reason why I, at the end of last year and the way that I'm sitting right now, am inching towards the let's just start fresh. Let's just move on, because I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. I love the emotion. I love the passion, but I don't love how he channels it. And I don't love watching his teams play basketball. It's purely reliant on individual talent. I don't see an offensive game plan that puts people in the best positions. We never see consistent gameplay. whenever ASU plays a big game, we think they can beat the number one team in the country. And that's awesome. I love having that ceiling. And then they can go play a non-power 4 team and lose at home. Right? Like everything is on the table with this team, and I don't see consistently good enough coaching. Screw everything else. Coaching itself that would validate all of the extras that have been coming with Bobby Hurley as of late.
Yeah, I suppose it really winning does cover up for a lot, because you look at Bobby's brother Dan, and the way that he's made news for conducting himself on the sideline. Well, he's got rings, so there's that. But is the juice worth the squeeze? Borrowing a Kenny Dillingham phrase again to talk about Bobby Hurley. A few things. I'm in charge of nothing. I always have to point that out, because of course we know that we're not the ones in charge. But I think about who is. I think about Michael Crow, and I think about Bobby Hurley's introductory press conference. I was there. I sat next to Zach Rosenblatt, who was a reporter for the Arizona Daily Star at the time, and since has moved on to cover, I think, the New York Jets and Giants. And at the time, the Daily Star, because U of A fans are concerned with what's going on at ASU, that's why they're in this chat right now. Welcome. They send a reporter up to talk to Michael Crow, and he asks a question to Michael Crow in the introductory press conference about the rivalry. And Michael Crow interrupts and says, "It hasn't been so bad lately, has it?" And he defends Herb Sendek to an Arizona Daily Star reporter in Bobby Hurley's introductory press conference. And that told me really all I needed to know, that it is very important for Michael Crow that ASU basketball remains competitive with U of A. They haven't been. 4-16, full court shot, which full court shots count. I'm glad we're on the same page with U of A fans now about that, now that they got a win over Iowa State, and it wasn't an almost loss to Iowa State. Points are points, no matter how they come, whether it's lucky or not. Every shot, to some extent, is lucky. But ASU is 4-16, and as U of A fans will point out, like 3, 1 asterisk, and 16. But the truth of the matter is they have not been competitive with U of A. If I'm a U of A fan, I'm taking every opportunity I can to troll about this, and I have no problem with them doing it. To the victor go the spoils. If you want to stick around long enough for us to talk about football, we can do that too. But it matters to Michael Crow. And so I think that Michael Crow looks at that record, and I think that Michael Crow looks at the negative attention that Bobby Hurley is getting. And if I put myself in his shoes and I say, do we want this person back? The answer is probably no. Now, from my perspective, Coapede is important. The talent has been good. The offense has looked better than it has in recent years, though some of his old habits seem to keep sneaking in there. There was a game not that long ago where it was close at the end, and Bobby Hurley called a timeout to yell at the refs. And then we came out of that timeout with an Adam Miller ISO corner 3 instead of like something that would have worked. And then at the same time against Colorado would wake up out of their slumps. Bobby Hurley would call a timeout, and they would come out of those timeouts and execute perfectly called plays that got ASU back out in front. And so I'm seeing enough good that intrigues me to what the future could be with Bobby Hurley. But if we're accepting the fact that basketball is kind of a year-to-year proposition, then do we want Bobby Hurley to be in charge of a brand new roster every single year at ASU? And I think for me, that answer can't be yes. I don't know if it's no, but it can't be yes, because for me, it would have to be based on something that I've seen in the past. Marcus Bagley was a disaster. Josh Christopher was a disaster. The 5-star transfer we got from Kansas was a disaster. The Canadian big that we got was a disaster. Amir Ali has not been good. Like, you can just keep listing people who came in with potential that didn't fulfill it at ASU. And if you want to, you can throw the kid from Washington, Sam in there as well. But he never really amounted to anything beyond ASU anyway. But I believe that you got to run to, not run away from. I believe that ASU now being part of the Big 12 is an attractive job. It gives ASU a lot more options if they were to go get a new coach, but they would have to support that coach. And we have so much documentation of ASU not supporting Bobby Hurley with everything it would have taken to succeed in previous years. If they want to run him through the end of his contract, that also wouldn't bother me, because it is so year to year. So I don't think players are going to care that someone's not extended out for 5 years because they only plan on being here for one anyway. But I also don't see the point of letting somebody play out their contract if it's not to try to earn a new one. So I think at the end of the day, a decision has to be made. And I'm curious what you think, because I know that it's not up to me, but I haven't seen enough to make me feel comfortable that next year is going to be the year, or the year after that's going to be the year. And I don't want it to be the year. I want it to be, as much as it can be, a healthy basketball culture. And you could say people don't have that anymore, but yes, they do. Gonzaga or Duke can turn their roster over every year. Even Arizona can turn a lot of their roster over year to year and remain competitive.
It's a really hard conversation because a lot of people are saying, who are you getting that's better? I don't think you're going to get a bigger name than Bobby Hurley. The name itself and all the players that we're talking about, even the ones that don't work out, like, it takes a certain somebody to get them in the door. By the way, I want to add the name Tayshaun Cherry to what you were saying, because cover that guy in person. That guy was a 5-star. Not. But it's really hard because I think that Bobby Hurley and what he brings and how he recruits, like, the players love him. Players who play for Bobby Hurley love Bobby Hurley, right? He is good at getting talented guys through the door, but everybody's saying it. We have a super chat from Jacob, who is one of our diehards, who says 5 stars don't mean anything if we finish at 500, right? I am not confident that Bobby Hurley, from a coaching standpoint, can coach any roster with any talent besides maybe like the top 5 most talented rosters in the country to a deep playoff run or a March Madness run or to win the Big 12. And I get it. Like, those are high heights. I shouldn't be expecting ASU basketball to be winning the Big 12 every year. Nobody can win the Big 12 every year. But when you take it to just a game-by-game basis, whether it's yelling at the refs during a timeout, right, or having the same problems over a decade long of coaching, right? If this is not Bobby Hurley's second year, third year, just figuring it out at the same school, right, with relatively similar infrastructure, and now infrastructure built to help you more, right? If this isn't the final year for Bobby Hurley, it better be because Jaden Quaintance is coming back and won't come back unless Bobby Hurley's coming back, or he pulls one hell of a rabbit out of the hat for the end of the season. Because as much as the name matters, as much as the recruits matter, as much as it is fun to get excited about new teams and transfer and what a player with the coach with the gravitas of a name like Bobby Hurley can do in this specific sport, it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't equal success. And you can point to individual moments in seasons that were successful. And you could do a lot worse than Bobby Hurley. The floor can be a lot lower than Bobby Hurley. But personally, I don't think that ceiling is that high. And if you are unable to hit that ceiling with 5 stars, with 4 stars, with big-time transfers that were averaging 20-something points per game, if you can't do that relatively consistently, then I don't really want those players, right? I don't really want the guys that I'm going to get excited about because they're a 5-star and then they come here and they flame out. I don't want that. I want a coach that can take, and again, like, the Kenny comparison is so lazy to me, but it's so apt. You want a coach who can take people who are not the cream of the crop when it comes to high school rankings, right? Or transfer portal rankings, and can look and assess at his roster and his talent and put together a game plan, a comprehensive identity that gets the most out of those players. And year in and year out, even in the highest of highs, I do not see that consistently from this team. And because of that, and because the only constant is Bobby Hurley, I have no choice but to look at him and say, maybe this program's going to be better off if somebody else is coaching it. And that hurts because he brings so much positives and he cares so much. But that doesn't equal being a great head coach.
It doesn't. And I mean, all you have to do is remove the names. So if you say school A head coach, 10 years, no round of 32, 4-16 against rival, program underfunded, most technicals in the comp. Like if you just list all those things out, then you're like, oh, this seems like somebody who's probably on their way out, right? And so it's a harsh truth, but like there's more to it, because a lot of the things, if you spend too much time thinking about them, they just get worse and worse. And this Caleb Love thing, right? Caleb Love is a trash talker. He has been in college basketball for 5 years. He has always been a trash talker. He went after Duke hard. There's articles about it. He went after NC State hard. There's articles about it. But you know what happened to Caleb Love when he was at North Carolina? He would go play in Cameron Indoor Stadium, where they hand out pieces of paper instructing every student in the building to make fun of him for, and I don't know if this is true, it's just what was on the paper, to make fun of him for sleeping with RJ Davis's girlfriend, right? The whole stadium at Duke, where Bobby Hurley played, where he came from, the school we celebrate because their student section is literally crazy, would say the worst imaginable stuff to Caleb Love for fun. That's where Bobby Hurley went to school. That's the culture they have there. We took our team out there to get them exposed to this and help emulate the culture of Duke. So yeah, if Caleb Love was saying wild stuff, why would Bobby Hurley be offended by that? Why would Duke's Bobby Hurley be offended by that? When that's what they want from the 942 crew, when that's what they want our stadium to be like. To be so plugged into college basketball that when the opposing team comes in, you know stuff about their personal life, right? Caleb Love is just that energy all of the time. Now, I'm not going out of my way to praise Caleb Love or make any excuses for him. He's a volume shooter who is getting love for shooting 42% against his rival, which is one of his better college games. They will be better when he's gone. But at the same time, he's a guy who talks a lot of trash. And if you're not emotionally prepared for that as a team, it says more about you than it does about the opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have more to say on this. We're going to keep this rolling. We are going to play an interview with Keith Abney. We're going to save that for the final segment. For our third segment, we're going to continue to unpack everything about Bobby Hurley. We're going to put a poll in the chat as well over our next break. What would you do about the future of Bobby Hurley? Would you get rid of him this year? Would you give him one more season after this? Or does he have free reign because you think that ASU, that's the best that they can do? We're going to put that poll in the chat. Thank you to the over 110 people in here on a Monday afternoon. We're going to keep this conversation rolling after our second break. You know, Bobby likes to scream a lot, and maybe he needs to go home and dabble in a little bit of cult cannabis, because I can tell you that cult cannabis is a great way to relax, because not only are the effects fantastic, because it is absolutely premium flower, and I mean premium flower, but you don't have to stress about the price, because it's not premium prices. And that's the worst part about finding good weed, is you're like, wow, this is good. I know where it's coming from. I know who made it, and I know the effects, and wow, the THC percentage is so high. How about your entire paycheck for it? No. See, Cold Cannabis at all your local True Leaf locations is on a mission to give you the best flower at the best prices, and that includes a True Leave exclusive strain in Magic Marker. And if you don't know, me and Kevin, who is a host of our Wildcats show, so we forgive him, do PHNX Puffs, which is a show sponsored by Colt Cannabis for diehards only. And of course, you can have some Colt Cannabis while you watch. Get over to TrueLeave.com, find your local shop, or place an order and tell them that PHNX sent you. And if you're getting Colt Cannabis, you might as well on your way home before indulging stop at Circle K. Of course, we're in Studio K. We love our friends over at Circle K. You see all that behind me? All of that are the munchies and the snacks that you can indulge in. And you can save not a little bit, but a lot of bit of money by joining the Inner Circle for free. All you have to do is download the Circle K app, put in your phone number, put in your email, and by the time I'm done reading this ad, you will be a part of the Inner Circle. Well, what do you get? 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups, 3 cents off per gallon after that, plus exclusive beverage deals for Inner Circle members, deals on snacks, and new deals popping up on that Circle K app every single day. And another great thing about our friends at Circle K is they ain't hard to find. Call them Coach Prime, because it ain't hard to find them. Look down one way, look down the other way on a street, and you'll find a Circle K. Just don't ask Ralph to drive you there in his nice car. All right, make sure you go to get the Circle K app today. Join the Inner Circle for free. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Shout out Megan and William, James, Joshua, Cactus Johnny, Palmer, everybody who's in the chat right now. Make sure you let your voice be heard and vote in our poll. Let us know what you think about the future of Bobby Hurley. Now, Ralph, I know that you don't make the decisions. I know that I don't make the decisions. And I understand that there are a lot of inherent flaws when we're looking at Bobby and this team specifically. What has to be done this season, right now, in order for you to feel comfortable going into the offseason, keeping Jaden Quaintance, continuing maybe a good streak in the Big 12, and being comfortable with Bobby Hurley leading this program for the next couple of years?
Well, in order for me to be comfortable with them bringing him back next year, they would have. There would have to be a conversation about his contract, and I'm not sure that anyone, including Bobby Hurley, is comfortable right now having a conversation about what his contract would look like for the, 2027 season. I don't know. And so Koa Pete's a big piece and he's a big deal. And, Arizona State's in an interesting situation where, and the players on the team have said all of the obligations to them financially have been met. But if you come in and you tear up college basketball as a 17-year-old freshman, there's going to be somebody out there who offers you $3-4 million plus because of what you'd mean economically to their program, because it'd be affordable, not just on boosters. They're about to have money available to them, as is Arizona State. And it's really going to be all in how it gets allocated. But that means that everybody else contributing to NIL, that's just above and beyond. How is Arizona State going to be able to match that? And so, if it meant that the roster as it was constructed returns everybody who has eligibility and is playing, and you were adding Koa Pete, then you're throwing all your eggs in the basket to be good next year, because it's a year-to-year thing and you have no guarantee of what's going to happen after that. So what you have to ask yourself is, am I comfortable with the way this team is coached? Or any teams have been coached? Can you point to Bobby Hurley's best coaching job? And that's going to be a difficult conversation for most Arizona State fans. Now, I will say, I feel like this year's team is better coached than in years past. But if you're better coached than in years past and you're more talented than in years past, but the conference jumped up so much of a level that you can't even play 500 ball in conference, then we have a massive, massive problem. I that's just kind of where I'm at. Is there is no way to be comfortable with Bobby Hurley based on his contract, based on the state of college basketball, and based on his rivalry record. There's no way to be comfortable. And I would say that Bobby Hurley probably feels the same way looking at 1 year left on his deal after this year.
Yeah, I think if you're going into next season with Jaden Quaintance returning, Josan Sannon returning, and Koa Pete, because Sannon's not played well enough, I think, to put his name in the NBA draft. Now, they've played well enough to maybe get interest from other schools, but obviously JQ has to return. If Bobby Hurley means those three are on the roster next year, then fine. I'll swallow my pride and I will say we got to at least ride this out, because for all the 5 stars that didn't work out, I have a hard time believing Koa Pete could go play for San Diego or San Francisco or whatever school is going to give ASU basketball hell in non-con, and he would be a top 5 draft pick. So if Koa Pete is coming to ASU only because Bobby Hurley is here, then you keep Bobby Hurley. But beyond that, you talk about finding coaching that you're comfortable with. JJ in the chat says, need more paint touches for Quaintance. I just simply need to see him use this young talent in a better way. And just because the coaching is better, which I'll agree for you, there have been moments this season where the coaching has been better, it has not been good enough. Right? It's like setting the bar extremely low when it comes to a coaching standpoint and then adding on these basic things. Like, I need to see more basic layers involved in this offense, easier ways to get Adam Miller, BJ Freeman, Bashir Jihad, Alston Mason, Josan Sannon, Jaden Quaintance, easier shots. Because how many times do you see a possession? And I mentioned this on our postgame show where Adam Miller, who had a great game against U of A and has had 2 good games in a row, he has the ball in his hands, and 8 seconds before he takes a shot, I turn to the person sitting next to me and I go, Adam Miller's going to take a bad shot here. And he does, because I know what's going to happen. And you can blame the players for that. And I think that there is some to go there. But when that is every single one of your players, Josan Sannon checks in, Josan Sannon takes a contested shot, taking one-on-one against somebody. Adam Miller has the ball. He's probably taking a bad shot. He might be hitting it. Alston Mason has the ball, probably taking a bad shot, might be hitting it. Bashir Jihad has the ball. Oh, probably taking a bad shot, maybe hitting it. Right? Like, difficult shot makers are a luxury. It is not something you build your offense around. And I need to see easier ways. Pick and roll with Jaden Quaintance and Alston Mason. Pick and pop with Bashir Jihad. Like, basic things in order to feel like you can utilize this talent correctly. Because while I'm okay with keeping Bobby, if it means keeping 2 5 stars and adding Koa Pete, I'm still going into next season sitting on this show saying, are you going to be able to coach them properly? Are you going to be able to get the most out of the guys who should be bringing you the most in maybe the toughest conference to play college basketball in? Are you enough to have this roster and succeed with it? Because if you are not, then I would rather have a different roster with a coach that can elevate instead of a coach that can get high level talent and de-elevate. I don't even know what the word. I'm mad, but I just need, I need to see actual steps in building an offense and coaching. Defense, not really a problem. Offense, massive problem for me.
Well, and people kind of, here's the deal. College basketball is a hard thing to pay attention to. It's hard to know who is an innovative, up-and-coming coach elsewhere. But people kind of like to act like Bobby Hurley is doing Arizona State some great charity by coming here and by being here. And the truth of the matter is that's not necessarily the case. This is an exchange of goods for service. What school better than Arizona State over the last 10, 20 years is championing at the bit to come and get Bobby Hurley? Right? I want this to work because I want this to work for Bobby Hurley and for the school I went to and for my childhood because I remember him being an all-time great. But the truth of the matter is there are a lot of coaches out there doing a fantastic job. Sundance Wicks at Wyoming. This isn't a Wyoming plug. He was at UW Milwaukee before that. He was great. He has connections to the state of Arizona. Like there are plenty. Steve Nash is around. If you want somebody who's a big name who has dabbled in coaching as Bobby Hurley was in 2015, Steve Nash is not only around, he's been in the building. Like there are plenty of people who would be interested in this, who would be hungry. And there's plenty of people who may have proven it or done a ton as an assistant, or who took a step back from head coaching to be an assistant for a while, or who are having a lot of success at a G5 level and want to come coach in the Big 12. The Big 12 is the equivalent of SEC football when it comes to basketball. Look at some of the names that take lower level SEC head coaching jobs. Jeff Lebby is one of the best offensive minds in all of college football, and he went to Mississippi State, which is going to be one of the hardest places to succeed. You will get somebody that you can be excited about. You will, if that job is open. And if it's not somebody you're excited about, you'll find reasons. We always do. We always do. But the idea that he can't be replaced is just, it's not true. And it's not fun to have Richard Jefferson out here choosing to like wage war on ASU now that the horse is dead on its side. He's out there beating it with a stick, right? That's not fun. All that stuff goes away briefly when you make a change. And just trying to think of, the people who care about publicity that are affiliated with Arizona State, that's probably in the back of their mind right now.
Well, and you also have to put faith in your athletic department, and I've never had more faith in our athletic department than right now. Even in an NIL standpoint, look at what happened with football, and I understand football is a completely different beast than basketball, but Arizona State University and athletics have shown that, like, with the right people in charge, they can get things flipped around. The football program was in hell. Right? It was a who wants to go there, and you find your guy, somebody that not everybody believed in, right? It was a long shot. He was your hometown guy, and you can't find Kenny Dillingham for basketball. You could barely find Kenny Dillingham for football. ASU got lucky to get Kenny Dillingham, and now they're ensuring that they keep him around. But to think that you can't find somebody who has a smaller name than Bobby Hurley, who's a better coach, like you're in the Big 12, like you mentioned, the SEC of basketball. And maybe you have to go through a couple rough years. Maybe ASU has to be the worst team in the conference for 2 years while they rebuild their program up. Is that better than, being stuck as the third or fourth worst team in the conference with higher expectations? These type of things you have to weigh and understand that if they move on from Hurley, it's not all sunshine and rainbows afterwards, right? But to act like Arizona State University is like the school in a Disney Channel movie that nobody wants to go to, that needs to have this massive face. No, dude, not at all. This is a program that has seen some success, has seen good NBA players come through it, an MVP, a defensive stalwart. This is not some nobody program, but it's a program that's not as good as it should be. But now it's in the Big 12. Funding is going up. NIL is going up. And maybe Bobby can be the kind of guy to get even more talent in here. But guess what? When you're playing in the Big 12, just having talent don't mean jack squat. You need to use the talent the right way because every damn team has talent. There's not a single Big 12 roster that doesn't have it. UCF has a guard that's freaking averaging 30, dude. It seriously is insane with the level of athletes that are out there, the level that are coaches out there, that people think Bobby's the only choice for ASU. And maybe 10 years from now, you move on from Bobby and you look back and you say, damn, I missed those 10 years where at least we had some success, right? Maybe that's totally possible. But for me personally, I'm willing to roll those dice. Here's what you guys said in the poll. What would you do with Bobby Hurley? Option 1 is let him finish out the year and then let him go. Option 2 is keep him for one more year after that and then reevaluate. Option 3 is just let him have free reign. Now, I do think this is skewed by all the U of A fans in here, but 51% say have him finish out this year and then you're done. 34% say let him have free reign. I think that's where the U of A fans come in. And then 14% say keep him for one more year. We're going to wrap this conversation up and play our interview with Keith Abney all after our final break. Sanderson for the country, built on serving you. Okay, I'm done singing, and now I'm telling you that PHNX is proud to have Sanderson Ford as our official vehicle partner. And my favorite part about them is their tagline, and I know it's true having been there. No hassle, no pressure, and absolutely no nonsense. And right now, you can drive into the new year, even though it's February, it's still a new year, and it's felt like 6. Still a new year, and you could drive into it with a brand new Expedition with 11 grand off, or with the new Bronco Badlands, so Sanderson has 28 to choose from with discounts of up to $10,000 off. Purchase a new Edge for only $35,995. Plus, Sanderson also took in hundreds of quality trade-ins during their year-end sale, and of course have 25 pre-owned vehicles with a warranty for under 25 grand. For the best deals in 2025, choose Sanderson. For again, no hassle, no pressure, no nonsense experience, and get more for your trade-in with easy on-the-spot financing. Drive into the new year in a new Ford from Arizona's most awarded Ford dealership, Sanderson Ford. And also our friends over at Game Time. You could have gone into the ASU U of A game with Game Time, but it's not just for sports, it's for everything. For live concerts, for comedy shows, for theater, whatever it is. Game Time is here to help you out and to get you the best tickets at the best prices. The absolute bar none worst thing about buying tickets nowadays is sitting down, picking out your seat, saying, oh, this is going to be great. Oh, I can afford this. And then you go to your checkout, and what do you know? The price is doubled because of a convenience fee. How convenient. Not. Game Time gets rid of all of that with Game Time Picks. You can filter out the fluff. You can turn on a switch that says, show me all the pricing, all inclusive. What am I paying? I can see it up front. And then it shows you the best seats, your view from the seats, and of course, what the best deal is. You can get all of that with our friends over at Game Time. Plus, you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time by downloading the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Ralph, your final thoughts on where Arizona State stands in the whole Bobby Hurley mess.
I have two final thoughts. One of them is for Dennis in the chat, who said, memo to delusional ASU fans, you aren't Michigan or Auburn. Two things about that. You don't have to say memo before you write something. This isn't like an official military cable or something like that. You can just write your thoughts. And also, if we're delusional, do you think we're going to get it? Calm down. The other thing is, let's look at West Virginia. West Virginia is in the Big 12. They had Bob Huggins, a legend, right? Bobby Hurley, not a legendary coach, but he's a legend. So they have Bob Huggins. He is a legend. Things start to go downhill. He has a decent season. I think they finished ranked 24th. They won 21 regular season games. That's about 5 years ago. Then things start to go downhill. And the year before Bob Huggins got fired, they won 4 conference games. The year that he did get fired, which was for, driving drunk, they had an interim replacement. I believe they won maybe five or six conference games. Regardless, they end up having to make a hire before this year, and they hired Dennis DeVries from Drake, who is a proven coach. And guess what? They're 5-5 in the Big 12 so far, and they look good. And what did Drake do to replace their very good coach who they lost? They went out and got somebody who won 3 of the last 4 D2 NCAA championships. And guess what? They are leading the conference again after losing their coach. Sometimes all you got to do is go out and get somebody who proved it, who you can afford. And the level of basketball on the court will move in the right direction. Now, will you have access to as good of talent? Well, you're not going to know until you know. But good players playing bad basketball does nothing for us. Somebody in the chat earlier said that, what's the point of a 5-star if you're playing 500 basketball? And I think you read that as a super chat. And I think about, since we have so many University of Arizona fans in the chat right now, how often do they think about DeAndre Ayton? They don't. He was there for a year. They didn't win. And they don't care that he went on to be the number 1 pick. Maybe they'd claim him if he was better in the NBA, but the year he was there, they didn't win, so they don't care. And so it really comes down to, are you winning or not? And right now we have the potential to win, and we're not doing it. It would be one thing if we were performing to the best of our ability, but we're not. And that's on Bobby Hurley, and it's nothing personal. The name of the game is to win. And I know he has a desire to win, and I know he cares a lot about it, but the things you care about most come out. And right now, feels like the thing he cares the most about is making sure that no ref has a good day ever.
I think that was beautifully said. I think that about wraps it up on the Bobby Hurley side of things. Thank you so much for that, Ralph. If you're watching on TV and it's a little bit early, just remember the party always continues to go PHNX.com. But Anthony Totri and I, before he scurried away on vacation, which I'll never do. I'll never take a vacation, especially not next week. And and we were able to talk to a couple ASU players. We played our Kanye Udo interview last week, and now it is time for Keith Abney sitting down with the Sun Devil Corner after a miraculous season, heading into the offseason. Here's what Keith had to say on a variety of topics.
We've got the one, the only CB1 for Arizona State, Keith Abney, with us now. Keith, welcome back to the PHNX Sun Devil Show, man. I feel like the last time that we had you on this show, I think we had you and Montana Warren when you guys like first committed to Arizona State some time ago. How do you feel like you've grown, and what's changed for you from that time to obviously now?
I just grown a lot, just, learned a lot within my first 2 years of college, and I'm just grateful to be here. I'm glad I made that decision to come here. It's one of the best decisions I've made so far in my life.
Has it sunk in yet, the fact that the team that you play for went from predicted to be last in the conference to Big 12 champions? Because you hear people talk about it all the time, but then like once the dust settles, you look back and go like, man, we really did something special.
Yeah, it do sink in. It did sink in. It's just like, I just look at it as like we just gotta go back to work so we can get back and achieve those goals and not fall short this time.
Yeah, repeat as Big 12 champions. Obviously, the goal, making it further in the college football playoff. For you, just what was that experience like being in the college football playoff? Obviously, a lot of discussion nationally for Arizona State when we were talking about getting to the playoff is, hey, Arizona State hasn't seen a team like a Texas, like a Notre Dame, like a Bama. And then for you to be able to play in that game as well as you did, just what was that experience like going up against some of the best in the nation?
It was a great experience, just knowing that, like, all the work that we put in all season was just, it kind of like we finally got to display it on a national level for real. We just got to go out there and do our thing. Obviously we didn't get the result we wanted, but I feel like people know what the Arizona State Sunday was about last year. So it was a good experience just to go out there and go showcase what we can do for sure.
Everybody that we talk to talks about getting better, right? It doesn't matter what you did last year. It matters what you're going to be doing next. How does this team get better from last season to next season?
We just last season, like, we just, that's out the window now. Like, none of that matters no more. Like, we go on to the next season, getting better. We just, coming to work every day, showing up to work every day, having fun, working harder than anybody in the country, just coming to work, trying to get better every day, taking coaching. We working hard with Coach Joe right now, so he got us on the right program, getting us bigger, stronger, and faster. So we just taking it one day at a time, one step at a time, and just, coming to work every day.
A lot of the times people look at the product on the field, they look at the highlight plays, whatever you're doing, and they think, oh, that's the work, right? But what they don't see is the countless hours you put in the off season. And like you said, getting your body right. How important is the attention to detail in those small things in the off season to translate to you making plays on Saturdays?
I look at it just, you never know when, these we push, like today we did sleds and stuff like that. It's just the little things I feel like that, coming together, building your brothers up while they pushing the sled, telling people don't bend over, things like that. I feel like little things like that just add up to, building team chemistry and coming together. And then we always got a motto. I was just thinking about this other day. We got a motto, like when we working out, like 2 more. Like, let's say we're sprinting 10 yards, we're going to finish 2 yards past the line and stuff like that. Like, we say 2 more with a lot of things, and it was crazy that our season came down to 2 extra quarters. Like,
Yeah,
it was just crazy. So little stuff like that, we just look at the off season. We just trust in Coach Joe and knowing like he got the right process for us, and we just trust in the process. We know all the things, the work that we're gonna put in is gonna help us within the season.
it feels like over the course of the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I guess at this point. You can look back to Arizona State wide receiver ones and DB ones going at it in practice, right? You got N'Keal Harry, Chase Lucas. You got Elijah Badger, Ro Torrance. And now you got Keith Abney and Jordan Tyson. Just what's it like for you being able to have that iron sharpens iron going up against what some people view as one of the best wide receivers in college football?
Yeah, it's good. It's a great opportunity going against, Jordan, and then obviously our whole receiver group. We got a great group, so it's just good going against those guys every day. Getting the best work within the week. So when it comes to the game, it's pretty much I done seen everything. We got big receivers. We got shifty receivers. We got fast receivers. So just getting those looks, during practice and spring is gonna be huge for me when the season comes.
All right, but here's the real question. You two switch roles, okay? You're wide receiver. Tyson's trying to lock you down. Who's winning?
He can't guard me. He can't guard me, man.
Hey, you're willing to put that to the test.
Yes, I am.
Oh, man. Love it. Absolutely love it. Look, obviously, a good chunk of this defense is coming back at all three levels. One piece that you are missing is Shamari Simmons headed to the NFL. So it does feel like there is a little bit of a hole at that nickel corner spot just until somebody is promoted to that starter role, whether it be Montana Warren, maybe one of the transfers, or maybe either you or Javen. Has there been any conversation with you and the coaching staff about potentially moving you from outside to that nickel spot, or are you sitting pretty at where you're at?
We haven't really had no conversation about that yet, but you never know when the spring ball comes. But as of right now, we got guys. We got Montana Warren. We brought in a couple transfers. Then you got Kyan. So we got a couple guys. I feel like gonna step up big in that role.
How do you feel like in your current role, right? Let's say you stick to the same position and over the last year, where has Keith Abney grown the most?
I just say just the details. Coach Carrington and Coach Walker is always preaching us just perfecting the details, just being very meticulous with our technique and all of our things that we're doing. Just film study, just small things. I feel like I've really been trying to improve that, and I feel like I did improve that my sophomore year, and I'm just gonna keep just trying to build on top of that. Just keep stacking, keep stacking, and keep stacking.
Yeah, I think that's something, again, from watching you as a freshman to the jump that you made sophomore year. I mean, Erik can attest to it. When we saw you in spring last year, you looked like a totally different player, totally different corner. Obviously, with the focus in the weight room, the body, the playbook, all that type of stuff. And now you've got a guy opposite you, right, in Javen Robinson, who it feels like you two have really come into your own last season at the tail end, playing teams like an Iowa State who had 2,000-yard receivers, being able to contain them, do what you did with Quinn Ewers in that Texas offense as well. Just what's the relationship and the dynamic between you and Javen?
It's crazy. Me and J Rob or Javen, we got like close. We started getting like real close, like Camp T for real. That's when we started like locking in and just it's like a brother to me for real. We just always talking about our goals and stuff like that. We always, just watching film. We play the game together, stuff like that. So me and him, we real close, and I'm glad to have him on the other side. We always just building off each other. I always tell him he the only person that like on like during games like J Rob, he the talker for real. So when I see him talk, that's what get me going for real. Like just stuff like that. So yeah, J Rob, shout out to J Rob. He's just a person that can get me going for real, and I'm glad to have him.
How much does that help you knowing that when you're out on the field, not only can you trust Javen from a football perspective, but from a personal perspective, like you just feel comfortable out there with him?
It's major just knowing, like when you have a real relationship with your teammates. I feel like that's what makes this team so special. That we actually have real bonds, like outside of the football. Like we always hanging out, guys always going out to eat, stuff like that. So I feel like a lot of teams don't have that, and I feel like that's something that we've been doing, and we're trying to build with the new guys, just building those relationships and trust with the new guys. So it's great just having real relationships and being able to trust people on the field.
100%. Look, last question from me, Keith, and we'll go ahead and get you out of here. Obviously, we brought it up earlier, the jump that you had from your freshman season to your sophomore season. You made just leaps and bounds. For you, what specifically do you want to focus in on this offseason, this spring ball, to try and improve your game for 2025?
I would say specifically, I got a couple things. I'm trying to pick one for you. I'm gonna say just perfecting my technique. Like I feel like your technique can always get better, so I'm just gonna just all the little things to just perfecting my technique, my footwork, and just try to be a technician. And I feel like I want that to be like when after spring ball, I want people to cut on my film and be like, okay, yeah, he's been working on this. He's been working on his technique. I just want that. That's one thing I want to show in the spring ball.
Last one from me. Do you have a favorite moment of the past season? It doesn't have to be a play, but just a specific time that you look back on and you're like, man, that was the time, man. That was the best.
Anytime he pulls up the jersey, man, that's 100%.
Nah, I'll say when we probably when we won the Big 12 championship at home and with all my family members and friends there. So that was a great moment for real. I'm probably remember that for a long time. So that's probably my favorite moment from the past season. Just winning the Big 12 championship in my hometown in front of all my family and friends and with my brothers. So yeah, that was a great moment for me.
Look, I'm sure you're not alone in that sentiment. I know there's a lot of Arizona State fans that hope to see you guys repeat in 2025 as Big 12 champions and head to the college football playoff once again. Again, Arizona State's CB1, Keith Abney. Keith, we appreciate you taking the time today, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you for having me.
Big thanks to Keith Abney for joining Totri and I. Huge thanks to Ralph Amsden for jumping on earlier and breaking down the Bobby Hurley situation. We do have an interesting schedule this week. Two shows for you tomorrow, including a post-game show for ASU basketball at night and during the day. ASU football, the Big 12 Conference is releasing their schedules tomorrow at 11. So tomorrow at 1, we are double dipping. We are doing a show breaking down Arizona State's 2025 Big 12 schedule. And we're doing that with Ralph Amsden yet again. Then we have another live show on Wednesday. Then we got a good chunk of days off. And then Sunday, we will be back with another post-game show. And of course, you can follow along with all of it right here on PHNX Sports. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notifications button as well. And if you're a sicko and you like hearing me talk, which I don't get it, but you can do it over on PHNX Suns as well. Big week for the Suns. Trade deadline. We're doing a trade deadline special on Thursday. Devin Booker's about to become the all-time leading scorer in franchise history. KD's about to hit 30K points. Whole lot going on over in Suns land. We have pregame, postgame shows, and of course live shows all for you as well over on PHNX Suns, all right here on PHNX Sports. Of course, we have Wildcats, Diamondbacks, we have Rising, we have Mercury. We have so much more for you at PHNX Sports and also over at gophnx.com. But you can follow the show at PHNX_Sun Devils. You can follow myself at ERIKRUBY. You can follow the man behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen, even without Anthony Totri. That, of course, at KCoop Sports is Captain Redbeard. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow for a whole lot of football and hopefully some good basketball. Go Devils, and peace.
We all silly like the mayor.